something has been going on in the industry, something that, while it really does suck for a lot of developers, I think that a lot of customers are maybe kind of rejoicing over, because it's a bunch of trends that have been going, just wearing really thin. And that is the death of so many live services recently. It's crazy. So, okay, for some of them, Apex Legends Mobile, dead. Battlefield Mobile, dead. Crime Site, dead. Crossfire X, dead. Dragon Quest, The Adventure of Dia, Heroes Bonds, dead. Echo VR, dead. Knockout City, dead. Love Live School Idol Festival, dead. Rumbleverse, dead.
All in the past week.
Some others, right?
No, because this is the past week.
This is the past week only.
So there was also Final Fantasy VII First Soldier, which was last month, and Babylon's Fall is going out this month.
Yeah.
So then there's probably a lot more. Some stuff may be lost here with like Apex and Battlefield Mobile being fine, Crime Site being an interesting Konami game, which is kind of like an anime Among Us in a weird way.
Proletariat's game.
Oh yeah, Spellbreak.
Spellbreak, dead.
Yeah, obviously that's for a different reason, but it's still live service wasn't making enough money. Can't, which means we're at the snowball been just pushed down the hill for an apocalypse for live services, for a cataclysm for live games, and this trend that's plagued the industry for the past maybe 10 years finally getting its comeuppance. Dragon
Age multiplayer live service, dead. Before it was even born, thankfully. That's like another example of, because, you know, there's all of these games dying, but I think the thing a lot of people want to see is these games being greenlit less.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Avengers as well. Avengers getting its death notice coming soon. There you go. That took longer than we expected, but yeah. It's about time.
And I think this is really just something that we're all feeling, a unsustainability in our video games, right? I have an ask for you. In the comments down below, how many battle passes are you exposed to in the games that you play?
Oh dear.
Right? Because
please don't answer that. I don't want to know.
Yeah, I've noticed, like, if you play a few of the big games, that is a lot of battle pass that you are being asked for. And maybe you don't buy every battle pass or whatever, but that is still like a lot of developer work, like a shocking amount goes into those battle passes. Is it a sustainable thing?
Yeah, it's funny because I know there are two younger people I play video games with very regularly, and occasionally they will just be like, oh no, I can't play whatever we're playing at the minute because battle pass stuff, and that is Destiny. Someone's always playing Destiny going, oh yeah, I have to do Destiny to get this. And the other is Overwatch 2, which I was, oh sorry, I bought the Overwatch 2 battle pass, I have to get my money's worth before it goes away. And that distracts them from doing it. That's like a chore for them to do, instead of them wanting to have fun and play video games.
Yeah, and we've now got to the stage where the battle pass mentality has actually deeply embedded itself within gaming to the point where it's a major design issue for games.
Yeah.
You look at Halo Infinite, so much of the launch criticism, of course, this is the launch criticism before we know that there's a content route. The launch criticism is about the battle pass being shit, about that not being exciting to grind, and the challenges not being good. All of these things that are not the core of Halo.
They're not the game.
Yeah, all of these things that essentially represent, because Halo Infinite, I would say, is a very good game, like Overwatch 2, but they're both bad products. And that's ultimately the issue. It forces the game to be more of a product. I mean, obviously a game's always a product, you're buying it, but if you understand what I mean, right? The game is now really just a housing for, ongoing recurring revenue and this kind of product thing. And then what we found is people are now not motivated, because I remember playing Counter-Strike 1.6, playing Team Fortress 2 before it was Crazy Hats, playing a lot of these games. And I would just play 2 Fort for hours and hours and hours and hours.
God, I love
with no real progression or anything. I would just play Counter-Strike for hours. I would just play Call of Duty. I would hit the prestige. I wouldn't keep on going. I just want to pub stomp. I'd keep on doing that in so many games. But nowadays, it's not that. And there's ways I don't feel that anymore too, because we've all got so used to these battle passes. You look at Overwatch 2, the backlash to that. Now, yes, there are definitely aspects of that backlash that are about Overwatch 2 being a different feeling game. I'll say, like, I do quite love the game and I really enjoy playing it. But the Battle Pass stuff's shit. And that just ends up, like, taking so much of the public consciousness. And I think that is, as well, much of what people, I think, are beginning to get frustrated by. Like, there's only so many battle passes you can do. They're almost always coercive or involve some form of bullshit. Quite frankly, they're just taking away from the core video games everywhere they go.
Yeah, I think when you say about products and them being bad products, I think a better way to describe it is maybe that they're bad services.
Yeah.
So I think people want products, they don't want services. Obviously, people want services like Game Pass or PS Plus. They don't want their game to be a service in and of itself. Unless it's a game that's literally like top 5 and doing extremely well and is perfect and has perfected that. But even then, that's like, point is everyone wanted to be the top 5 video games that make the money. And that's not how it works. The industry is healthier as a whole if people are just going, we're going to make a consumable product that everyone will play and have fun with and be done with. They want the product. They want the good video game, not the soul-draining experience that's like signing up to, I guess it's the thing, it's signing up to do another thing every X for however long you're going to play.
Yeah.
To get, especially if you want to get all your value out of it.
It makes us feel very entrenched in the games that we're currently playing because the cost of switching, both in loss of progress in current monolithic live service, and then the cost of getting up to speed in big new live service with all of its things, it's pretty high.
Yeah, it's all a...
You can see why the big games companies would want to do that. You do become more of a captive player in this world.
Yeah, it's a shortcut or an artificial way to get deep engagement. Whereas you look at people who say are massive fans of Monster Hunter or massive fans of, and this is just the Capcom segment apparently, because I'm also thinking of people who are super fans of Resident Evil, super fans of Devil May Cry, super fans of like Street Fighter and other fighting games. And that is because they really love the games and they resonated with them, so they play the hell out of them. It's like, I think about a lot of the stuff that the Sphere Hunter on YouTube covers, and the vast majority of that is like super fandom coming from a game that's a one-off being really good, so good that you play it again and think about it a lot, as opposed to like the artificial, oh well, we need people to be always in our platform, always on our game, so we'll do it through all these means that aren't quite pure human spirited deep enjoyment.
That's exactly it. And on paper, it is supposed to be ideal for everybody. Yeah. For investors, right? It's like, wow, amazing, recurring revenue, sweet. For players, it's like, oh, you put your time into a game, guess what? It's going to keep on going and you'll feel worthwhile. For developers, hey, you get a guaranteed job. You know, you get a work in World of Warcraft that'll keep on going for years. It should be perfect for everybody. A player may even imagine like, wow, does this mean I constantly get like loads of single player content, loads of narrative, loads of cool special new experiences? And the reality is no, you just get cost controlled cosmetics over time.
Yeah, I think because there's a version of this that worked out well.
Yeah.
And it was like, I guess it was the prototype for this. And feel free to disagree, but season passes. Season passes for single player games are often seen as absolute nightmare. Mm-hmm. But there's some that do them more or less really well. And I'm going to, again, this is just the only games I play are Japanese, so the only ones I have examples of. But like the Dark Souls season passes for DLC, the DLC for those games, very good. Literally just, hey, would you like more Dark Souls? There's a little bit of inconsistency between them, but like some of them were fantastic. Like so I suppose it might not have been the season pass at that time, but the Dark Souls 1 DLC and then the Dark Souls 3 DLC were amazing. And they were clearly examples of, I think the Evil Within 2 applies, or the Evil Within DLC works as well here, as well as the Stranger Paradise DLC, where you go, well, that was a wee bit mixed on some of the gear and difficulty stuff, which felt slightly live servicey. But ultimately the point is, this was, hey, these people have made a game, and all the lessons they learned during that game are crystallized in the DLC. And the DLC is like an encore, like a victory lap of, we're so damn good at this now, we'll make a better version. And then people realized, oh, well, say $15, $20 probably for Season Pass, I think mostly. $20 for Season Pass, and that's more cost efficient than charging $60 for a game, because the Season Pass content takes, 5% of the time as the game did to make, or 10% or 20%, but you get so much more cost efficiency like out of selling it. And then they took that to the logical extremes of live services of just going, can we just do that forever? But it was the thing of the industry taking what was a kind of good idea in a lot of cases and then running with it, taking the piss and trying to exploit it maximally.
And then you add to that the trend chasing. I mean, how many CEOs in gaming are or had been talking about Web3 related technologies just because that was the thing that was currently popping off. So there is absolutely no wonder then that whenever the live service started to catch on, I guess what everybody just wanted to have World of Warcraft like revenue or League of Legends like revenue, that now suddenly just so many games are being concepted as live services. But we're definitely getting a problem with that. There are only so many live services that a player can play. There are only so many games where really it being a live service makes sense. And also, games like live services, they really depend on a network effect. The more people that play the live service, the higher value the live service is to its players, right? Yeah. And then that means you need to hit a certain level of success, or you are not producing the results that you need to keep the game alive. That's why we start to see so much death.
By definition, they are winner takes all. Live services is a zero-sum game. That's it. It is all just, if you win, you win. If you don't, if you try and fail, all of your money is in the trash can. It's gone forever. You might as well set it on fire. If you're not Apex, if you're not Warzone, you might as well just set that money on fire, because all you're doing otherwise is wasting developer time and your own money. You could set all that money on fire and then use that money to greenlight a different game. And sure, you're putting more of a cap on your earnings, but it's going to be better for, like, healthier for the industry. It's going to be more sustainable. It's going to get you the grind time of making a better game. Obviously, this is on my brain, so I'm going to use a Hi-Fi Rush as an example again. Tango Gameworks making Hi-Fi Rush has been an iteration of their developers making a game, which means the next game they make is going to be better. Maybe not conceptually, but they're going to be better developers working on it. You kind of lose a little bit of that in live services, because you lose like the variety of skill. It's all just go fast, make content for this, and you lose like the ability to concept new games, the ability to plan new games. You lose all of that possibility. There's a major, I guess, opportunity cost to live services that I guess we'll feel, because we'll look back at this era of games and go, where were all the video games? How was this the biggest entertainment industry and we haven't made that many massive video games? Obviously, you'll then be able to look back and go, oh, right, because they're all dead. But you'll look back at this era of, like, if you're especially in like 10, 15, 20 years, and you're going into a used game store, well, everything's digital, so good luck with that anyway. But in the case you are, you'll go, where'd all the games go?
Imagine if Anthem was just a game.
It's just a game that was, hey, here's the Iron Man suit fantasy taken to a logical extreme with all of the narrative that's there in place, but single player campaign instead of do the same mission 4,000 times, but on an incrementally higher difficulty every time.
Could have been a good game. People would have maybe remembered it, maybe would have sold better.
The actual gameplay of Anthem's pretty good. If they didn't have to deal with all of the networking multiplayer stuff, they probably had a lot more room for individual design. If you didn't have that like party dynamic going on, you could probably give one suit a lot more opportunity, a lot more skill, and then maybe just have a really banging action game out of it. And then they'd have been like, hey, did that make all the money in the world? No. Did it make money? Yes. That would have been an improvement. Obviously, we get to say that with hindsight, but it is still like, if you can see everyone else make this mistake, because we've seen it since Anthem failed multiple years ago now, like 3-4 years ago now, you go, okay, well, why has no one else learned that lesson yet, it seems?
Yeah. So you kind of run into problems then when you're trying to do one of these live services, like, okay, how can you take a crack at Fortnite? That's going to be pretty damn hard. You then also have fundamentally their own fungibility, where the development costs for this sort of game are really high. They're also free to play. Mm-hmm. Now, the issue there with free to play is until you sort of hit a certain volume of users, you're going to be burning through cash with your cost per user acquisition, right? Your CPA. You're going to be burning through cash. And unless you hit that critical mass where it makes sense to even bother continuing, you are just going to completely run aground. I think the bit where it matters here is what we've also lost in the pursuit of this. So it has been said that the new Hitman games, that they involved Square Enix interference. Similar actually for Just Cause 4, and apparently similar for even Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. You have obviously the situation with Dragon Age. Right, there's so many games.
Actually, I have a pretty poignant example I want to say. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Obviously, that had a little bit of a live service air to it because people saw the Marvels video game from them, went, oh no. But when it came out, everyone went, oh, this is actually really good. It wasn't very culturally important because people went, yeah, whatever. But in terms of being a good game, it was. People would have loved an Avengers game that had just the single player campaign, because that single player game in that game was actually good, right? Like, if that was just, here's a licensed game with a really good single player.
$100 million game.
Yeah, if they had put all that money into, even if they just like cut the scope of the product in half and went, here it is, single player campaign, people would have liked it more. If they'd put all the multiplayer budget they'd put into the actual single player, that game would have been way better. And that's only the games we've seen. That's not all of the, again, I'm going to use Hi-Fi Rush as an example. How many Hi-Fi Rush pitches were shot down because someone went, hey, that's probably a really great idea. However, We need every single hand that we possibly have in order to make this winner takes all live service machine actually function.
How many games like that had to die within Ubisoft just for Ubisoft to make all of the games that they've now cancelled, because they have cancelled so many live services?
Do you think if they had the guts to cancel Skull and Bones when it looked like it might have been bad, so about 3 months after pre-production, then do you think they would have that goddamn Prince of Persia remake out yet? Would they have the entire Prince of Persia series remade and released? Would they have a follow-up with it in like a AAA sense that's big, using all of that Ubisoft Singapore stuff? And that's the thing that I think people don't talk about this very much, because it's kind of hard to, you don't immediately think about it. You just see what's bad and go, oh well, that's bad, I'd rather not have it. But all the stuff that we could have had, and all the stuff that we will theoretically now have because of Xbox, because of EA going, if we just throw these in the bin, can we make games that actually make us some money instead? It's like they've finally learned that things are going bad, which means this apocalypse is actually a good thing.
Where we have had some success is a few indie-like games that have really managed to do well. Really, I just want to mention Deep Rock Galactic.
Oh,
but the thing is, Deep Rock's been going for 5 years, and a lot of evolution happened. It's almost as if they kind of focused on making an excellent game first, and when that excellent game found the success, they worked out like how they could properly carry it forward.
That's how live services, that's how the proto live services of the past worked. That's why people played so much Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2, because they were good ass games.
I'd almost think about the transition between Vermintide 2, which was, 1 foot in the live, 1 foot in the, feeling a little bit older, into Darktide, with Darktide, of course, trying to, them really realizing, okay, we seriously have the winning formula here. But it almost seems that in order to try and do like Darktide, the super big live service game with cash shop and all of that stuff, that they ended up damaging themselves. Of course, Darktide, even though it has so much going for it, releases in a state where even recently enough, the CEO just has to come out and apologize for the whole sordid affair. Now, that thing then of Deep Rock Galactic is interesting, because how do you make a Deep Rock Galactic? This is the thing that we always think about, right? The chicken and the egg. Do you always just plan like, hey, we're going to make this and it's going to be this incredible thing for 5 years? Or do you just make the best goddamn Deep Rock Galactic that you can, get it out there, find enough of an audience you can then keep on going? Or do you end up, the sort of indies trying to be AAA's space, like with Proletariat, like with Velen Studios? Do you decide, okay, we're going to make a battle royale or a live service game, whatever, and this is going to be its unique twist? And that is, of course, when we get to one of the recent casualties, which is Knockout City by Velen Studios, who have shut the game down. So to catch you up, it was a 3v3 dodgeball game, basically Rocket League, but dodgeball, if you kind of wanted the elevator pitch there, which is an interesting thing, because one of the ways that you can certainly get funding is to do the whole this meets that. If you can do this meets that and have a solid pitch and a prototype with quite a bit of fun, there you go. That is the route to having money. So ultimately, this was an EA Originals game. It came out, though, with a full price tag. They then figured that pivoting to free-to-play would be the best option to lower that bar of entry. They were then amicably able to actually get the game out from EA, relaunch it February 2022 as a free-to-play indie that had over 12 million players. And I guess this is really why I wanted to talk about this.
Yeah.
It had over 12 million players!
Yep, but they didn't make enough money to run it and also make another game.
Yeah.
So they made the hard call. They went, this is 12 million players who have played our game. Can we continue to squeeze them dry? Oh no, well, probably they didn't have the ability to squeeze them dry, but do we keep this going? Or do we do something interesting? Do something more? Do we keep going? Ultimately, they just went, yeah, this Rocket League dodgeball game that by all accounts obviously successful, and just it's gone. They made the choice that I think AAA are terrified to do, which is, what if we just try our hand and make a game? Unfortunately.
They ultimately just realized the numbers do not add up. And I think when you have a player count like that, and numbers that to that degree do not add up, that is a scary place. And I think it just highlights the winner takes all nature of this. I would imagine, or I would wonder, maybe if you're used to the battle pass like stuff in Destiny or Fortnite or something, maybe you're going to be more likely to buy another battle pass. But maybe if you have 2 battle passes, the third is really a stretch. Or maybe you've been so used to the battle passes that you've really just realized, actually, I can just play and progress through the game and have just as much fun that way. I don't need the battle pass, because really it is completely not essential most of the time. And I think that's the thing that's going on. I think they are just running aground. They're no longer converting as well. Now, where Velen really do need to be given credit by everybody is the way that they're doing it. So, real money transactions are turning off by the end of February. They're going to ensure that almost every cosmetic will be able to be bought before the closure. They're celebrating with the community, including a final tournament for competitive players and a podcast wrap-up for the game's ongoing narrative. And then, and this is the bit that is so good that we all, I think, just wish other developers would do, they're making a standalone version of the game that can be hosted by players, and they're putting that out on PC. That is absolutely perfect. And it's also great because, the business is not going to deny the developers' art to the community. And I think that is like one of the most important things, especially as time goes on, more and more live services will die, and they will be lost to time if developers do not do this. This is wonderful.
Yeah, this is the version of things done right, where they went, well, okay, they clearly care about video games as a whole. They clearly care about what they're doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't go to the effort to do all of this. It is just the gold standard. The gold standard.
So I think ultimately then what we're just beginning to realize is it feels tapped out. And as I kind of look at things, really the best people to look at are Ubisoft. Because I think what Ubisoft did is they looked at their IP and they saw their IP as the thin end of a live service wedge, right? They didn't see Ghost Recon as Ghost Recon, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon. They saw it as, oh yeah, people have been playing Ghost Recon games since, I don't know, like early 2000s or whatever. There's a lot of brand recognition with Ghost Recon. There's a lot of brand recognition with Tom Clancy. Cool. We will use this as the thin end of the wedge of multiple live service titles. You look at Breakpoint. You look at the other game, Frontlines, whatever, that they cancelled. You see that Ubisoft had really done that. I mean, I'd say a few other franchises, they just had done it with a few different Tom Clancy's and some other things. And, they had a few other projects too, all just being, hey, we are going to produce an entry in this genre, in this type of business model that when we look around, we can see players are playing. Maybe they forgot that even if they turn that game around in 3 years or 2 years, they're probably going to be out of date. And maybe they're realizing that those games didn't get to the place that they got emulating what was out there, right? They brought something new to the table, and that is why people flocked to them. And I think that's basically it. You are never going to make the next Assassin's Creed if you are just making an entry in a business model, filling some sort of brand that you have. That it's never going to work like that.
They're all playing the same game instead of trying to constantly one-up each other. You don't become the industry leader or make anything interesting through being the copycat.
Yeah, don't make a battle royale. Make the next battle royale.
Yeah,
And now that means, okay, don't make a Tarkov of whatever. You need to make the thing that comes after Tarkov. It's not about a MVP of Tarkovifying what you thought could have been a battle royale pitch a year ago. What you have to do is think, well, the player who loves Tarkov, what would they want in a new game that will move them away from Tarkov? Instead of just, we'll take that and we'll skin it like this, and there's the business model.
Yeah, and that also shouldn't be the be-all, end-all either, because that's a lot of effort, that's a lot of money, that's a lot of risk.
True.
The industry needs a lot more of games being made that are just games that you play, and then you're done, and then you go, that was a good experience, thank you, I will have another one please when it's ready, or from someone else. I think the industry is like, because I even see literally, I'll bring it up here, just is a tweet from Jeff Grubb saying, I feel like I woke up in a bizarro video game world where suddenly licensed games are the biggest thing and we're going to get for the next 5 years from big publishers. This is about Hogwarts Legacy. But he says, I know what's been happening. I've been flat out told big games need to get as close to 10 million units sold as possible, and that's easier to do with a license. I don't know. To me, that's another check mark in the this is all unsustainable column. I think that's Ubisoft to run into that unsustainability head first, and they'll be lucky to survive it, to be honest.
You can see their thinking, right?
Yeah.
The people are saying, all right, Eves, here's the deal. You have a thing going on with For Honor. You have a big thing going on with Rainbow Six Siege. Look at how we've been able to live serviceify Assassin's Goddamn Creed. Eves, we're going to do this for every goddamn franchise we have. And then he goes, I don't know, something of, money. Sorry, everyone from France. That seems to be the only decision-making that could result in whatever the fuck Ubisoft have done. And I guess it's like, we're not doing this just to clown on Ubisoft. I think it's because we'd both agree that Ubisoft are like the greatest example of how to do this precisely wrong. With the, what really is the inverse of visionary leadership. It's the part that's difficult to come to terms with when you're watching the industry do all this. You go, why do you not just do what we all think is a better idea? And it is wildly frustrating. I would say that so much of greatness in the games industry comes from acknowledging your own limits and what is feasible, and then trying the best thing you can do. And that is, that's something I said that does resonate with me, which is good because I think that's why I said it. But like with The Pale Beyond, like the game that we're currently working on.
Made a game that could be made.
Yeah, it was like straight up, and you'll see more of this in the making of sort of documentary series we'll have coming out on the Bellular Studios channel. But initially, like, we tried way too much. We totally fucked up. We lost a lot of money, and we basically, it was like, right, we have one chance, and then we just have to pack it up because honestly, we're aging too much. And we, maybe it's time to go on the corporate ladder if this doesn't work out. So we just thought like, right, what can we do? And we realized we don't have enough experience to do like super tight, second to second combat gameplay.
Yeah.
But we can do art, we can do writing, we can do music. And from embracing those limits, we are then able to create the best thing that we can make within that. And I think that is, whenever people talk about it's a resurging thing, like oh my god, that's like a PS2 game, which is a strange way of saying it actually is a game that like you play it and you've played it, there, done.
It has a start, middle, and end, and someone thought something cool when they were putting it together. That's what it seems to make. Something devoid of nonsense that was picked up along the way from over corporatization and over monetization of everything. It's like a video game for the sake of being a video game that you buy and you're done and everyone goes, I enjoyed my time with that video game. Excellent.
That's where we have to hop over to Back 4 Blood and Turtle Rock. Back 4 Blood, left 4 dead, and it's Turtle Rock. Evolve, right? They split with Valve, they made Evolve. And, in many ways, Evolve, cool game. Hey, Kaiju.
It was
Think
also,
about the game that we fucked up making. Yeah. We like Kaiju.
I think it was also the first major asymmetrical multiplayer game.
Yeah.
It just didn't land, and then obviously Dead by Daylight comes later and goes, oh, this is how this is done. You're like, oh, hell yeah.
Obviously, it didn't really work out. And I think them understanding, like, yeah, we make a cool game, but we need an exit plan. That's why with Back 4 Blood came out, it was on Game Pass, people played it, got its content, and they're saying that after, the initial roadmap of 3 expansions has been complete, they're done. They're walking away. Some players will feel really, betrayed by that, because now we have these modern game expectations. Whereas I would say the best thing to do is just to make the best game that you can, like they did, do some follow-up content for that game, like they did, and if you see numbers that say, oh, hang on, we could continue, maybe this could end up being a really awesome Deep Rock Galactic, then by all means, let's go. But you need to be able to not pretend that you're too big to fail in your design when you certainly are not too big to fail.
No one is. I think video games have proved that more than anything else. No one is. If you have any cynicism in your heart when you set out to make a very big video game, it's probably not going to resonate with people and you're probably going to fail. The examples, all of the rarities, all of the games that were like, hey, we're just going to try something, and then it worked and went, why is this $80 billion made over the next whatever years? Like, you look at World of Warcraft, they didn't go, we'll make a game that will last forever, it's 200 years. They all sat down and went, let's make a big MMO, let's make a big game. And then it happened, and it did.
Yeah.
And
in fact, one of the things that World of Warcraft has suffered from was a lack of internal confidence in World of Warcraft sustainability. Yeah. That may seem insane to you. I can tell you for a fact, World of Warcraft was chronically underinvested in until recently because they just thought like, well, there's only so far this will go. We need to redirect our money into the next World of Warcraft so that we can have 5 World of Warcrafts running at the same time.
Yeah, and it sounds a little bit wishy-washy. It sounds a little bit like, because I definitely come from the angle of video games are art. If you don't treat them like that, your game's going to be shit.
Oh, yeah.
But I think there's an element of romanticization of that idea. Hey, we're just going to make something and see if it works, but we believe in it and we have a great idea and we like understand the fantasy of what people want. And then it comes out and it works and it goes, yeah, this is amazing. And that's how it works. But anytime anyone sets out cynically, like Skull and Bones, that was clearly cynical. The leader of Just Cause is clearly cynical. Avengers, clearly cynical. And they just failed. You look at any game that's successful largely, you can tell that it comes from a place of, we're going to make this and it's going to be cool. That gets hard whenever you've got hundreds of developers and making sure the whole thing feels that way cohesively. But that's been like in the history of video games, the vast majority of video games that have been successful and been culturally relevant. And that matters in the long term because if you're a platform holder or a publisher, you want your name to have weight. You want people to say, those are the guys that made that. I love that.
Assassin's Creed.
Those are the guys who made Assassin's Creed. Those are the guys who made Call of Duty. Those are the guys who made, even you look at like smaller games. You look at anything Capcom, you see a Capcom game, you go, oh yeah, Monster Hunter, Resident Evil, yeah, I trust those people. They can make a game that's not just a game that's good. They can make a game that feels good. They can make a game that I play and go, yeah, this is it. And that's incalculable and it's hard to emulate, but that's the approach that seems to be taken. Even with like Respawn, I don't think Apex Legends was set out to be made cynically. I imagine they were like, hell yeah, we'll try a Battle Royale, but we're the Titanfall people. We can make it really good. And they set out to do that. And you can feel that when you play it. Obviously, it's got a lot of the Battle Royale staples, but you can feel that those developers all developers put their heart and soul in everything, but it feels like the concept wasn't poisoned from the get-go, like it is with so many other Battle Royales and then live services. And that's what makes it feel good. It might even be a reason why Overwatch 2 is not as successful as Overwatch 1, because Overwatch 1, it didn't set out to be this incredible, like what it ended up being culturally. They're just like, well, Blizzard, let's just make a good game. And it eventually turned into something great. But Overwatch 2 had to carry that weight. Yeah. And when they were carrying that weight, they must have lost sight of whatever made Overwatch 1 great in the first place. Not that Overwatch 2 is bad, it just doesn't feel the same. And that's hard to think about and hard to talk about.
It's I think anyone we're all feeling, and I think the reaction to the UI of Dragon Age Dreadwolf actually does show us this. I think it's a ripple of this very thing that's going on. And I think that's really the core thing that we would say to end this. There's a really large sustainability problem, and the perfect people to look at for how not to do things are Ubisoft. And you look at how many of the large AAAs have completely ran themselves into the ground in modern years with awfully received games, damaging their own intellectual property, wasting, they talk about the man hour, right, in work. Mm-hmm. How many, to sort of carry it forward, how many thousands of man years have just been destroyed, thrown into the blender, thrown into the, into the fire of the live service furnace that all of these companies are just chasing and chasing and chasing, rather than actually trying to do something unique in the market that can capture people, because it literally is the cool new thing. I don't think you can be the cool new thing if you are emulating the structure of the current cool thing. Yeah,
it's literally millions of years of developer time thrown into gambling instead of making video games.
Yeah, we do not want our industry at the highest level to just become Pepsi versus Coke.
And I actually think of nothing worse.
Yeah, and I think that is why so many people, and I know there's been the odd drama and stuff, but that's why so many people love the Sony blockbusters, because they're just a game done well, right? Like, look at Ghost of Tsushima. That is a game, undeniably, that Ubisoft could make. But how is it that Sucker Punch were able to make the Sony version of it with that budget that didn't feel as compromised?
Because they sat down and went, what would be cool?
Yeah, have a think about that.
And they all did that. And then you went, okay, well, this is very Ubisoft, but it's removed some of the Ubisoft stuff. It's avoided the Ubisoft in this. They went, yeah, what's the point? What are you doing in this game? And no one said, well, you're doing... user story. You're doing, you'll come home and play 8 hours and you'll do these activities. They're like, gonna run around Japan saving people as a samurai. Everyone's like, yeah, that works.
We'll do it so well that actual Tsushima really likes us.
Yeah, we'll just send them like hundreds of thousands in terms of like tourism bucks, and it'd be a whole like, play the game and then come to us. We're really cool. Excellent.
Oh man, so there you have it. There's obviously a sustainability problem every time we've opened Twitter or looked at the various different game, news breaking websites over the last 2 weeks. It's just been dead live service, dead live service, dead live service, dead live service. Hubris dashed against the walls, and a change needs to happen. And that's from the business side of things, from the consumer side of things. Do we not all feel the growing weight, the growing just collective sigh at the way that some of these games are structured these days? And I think the answer is yes, we do.
Yeah, and thankfully, I think it takes, you think about the grand cycle of life, and I think where there's ash and mulch from live services, maybe something actually worthwhile can grow. Maybe. Just needs to be tended by the industry who actually try to do that for change.
Yeah. Hey, if it weren't for a whole bunch of fuck-ups, the next Dragon Age would be a multiplayer live service.
Yep.
Maybe Jedi Survivor wouldn't be the thing that people are looking forward to. Good does come of this. When these big experienced AAAs crash and burn, often what happens is they join smaller companies, they form their own companies, and they do some cool new shit. So
yep. We are hopefully in the winter, or in a winter of video games, and we're coming into a spring.
I actually do firmly believe that. Yep. So that's where we are. If you would like to check out the game that we will be releasing in just a few weeks, you can check out The Pale Beyond, and our Antarctic exploration inspired narrative survival role-playing game. Check it out on Steam. You can actually play the demo right now. And with that said, check this video out next. I'll see you over there.